Hey guys, OGalbina here, and today I'm bringing you guys another tier list video. We made one last week on the starter Pokemon, so definitely go check that out if you haven't done so already, but today we're going to be doing it based on the Pseudo-Legendaries. Big shouts to Horsemelons for suggesting this in the comments of last week's video. If you want to see a specific tier list, definitely drop in the comments below, let me know. Let me know what you think about my rankings, tell me if I'm stupid, if I'm super smart, all that stuff. Now, with that being said, we're going to go ahead and rank these mons. Now, obviously, there's only, 9 Pseudo-Legendaries, correct? So it would be a really short video if I just did the fully evolved Pokemon, who are all great Pokemon, things like that. So what I'm going to do today is I'm actually going to be ranking their first stages as well in a Little Cup draft kind of perspective. So we have Pokemon like Bagon, Dino, Dratini, Dreepy, things like that. I'm going to kind of talk about their viability and their roles and niches in Little Cup draft. I know a lot of people don't play Little Cup draft, but I love the format. It's one of my favorite formats. I'm actually playing in Little Cup Evo right now for APA, which we uploaded a movie of last season. I'm having a great season there, and I'm definitely going to upload a movie of that soon, so you'll get some more Little Cup content on the channel. And yeah, now, as for the middle stages, I probably won't touch on them too much, as I personally don't think any of them are incredibly viable. I think Metang is probably the most viable, and even then, you probably wouldn't catch me dead drafted as a Metang. So we're probably going to stay away from those, but we'll at least rank them via Little Cup and then via Standard Draft, which I think will be a lot of fun. So yeah, that being said, if you guys enjoy, be sure to drop a like as well as sub to the channel if you are new. And yeah, let's do it. Okay, cool. And again, we'll kind of rank them based on their, not their viability and like what their point tier should be. I'm more so going to rank them based on the utility they offer, like the value they offer at their price point. So, for example, we'll start off with Bagon, my favorite of these pseudo first stages, because Mens is my favorite Pokemon. Obviously, the first stage is going to be my favorite. We're going to go ahead and rank him in C. As much as I love him, I have drafted him before, and it's okay. And it has the potential to be incredibly strong. It has Sheer Force with like Fire Fang, which is a really cool option for like the few steals that exist. And in Little Cup, if you don't know, there are very few and limited steel and fairy options. So typically offensive dragons are also few and far in between, but they can be pretty good depending on their stats and move pool and things like that. And Bagon is okay. The thing that holds it back is it's very strong, but it's very slow. I believe it hits like 15 as its speed tier, which is less than ideal. Actually, I wanna check that. So I'm gonna move this calc over here really quick and pull that up. But it either hits 14 or 15 in its speed tier. Yeah, it hits 15, which isn't the fastest thing. 16 and 17 are like the most prevalent offensive speed tiers in Little Cup draft. And then while it's really strong with 75 base attack, it's pretty darn frail. With 60 defense is okay, but 45 HP and 30 SPDF is really tough, especially with all the priority running around. It's very hard to find an opportunity not only for this thing to set up, but for this thing to continue and sweep, in my opinion. So while I do think it has its niches and it can be okay in specific matchups and it's really hard to switch into, it really lacks that game-ending potential that a couple of the other LC dragons on this tier list, you know, do offer. Now, from Bagon, we'll jump right down to Salamance, and I might be a little biased. Some people might put him in B, but I had to put my favorite Pokemon at least A tier. I love this thing. I think in Standard Draft, this thing is amazing. Intimidate is a phenomenal ability. It has ridiculous bulk across the board in conjunction with that, which is great. It can Wish or Roost. Typically, you're going to see Roost more often, but I think Wish Mence is a really, really slept-on concept that a lot of people really sleep on a lot of the time. It's a great Dragonite sleeper. It's great from the special side and getting Hurricane this shit. And it got Dual Wing Beat from the physical side, so it finally has reliable physical stab as well. Heavy UV Boots a lot to facilitate more setup opportunities. You can also go with, like, you know, DD Moxie sets or even Scarf Moxie sets. This thing is incredibly versatile in the right player's hands, and I think it's amazing. I love this Pokemon. It's my favorite Pokemon personally. I guess we can kind of explain why. My two favorite Pokemon are Salamance and Metagross, which are both going to be on this list, which I think is really cool. But I grew up, my first game was Pokemon Sapphire, and I remember seeing Drake send out his Salamance in the Elite Four and being like, yo, what is that thing? And then same thing with Steven Stone sending out his Metagross, which is really, really cool. So I love me some Mence, and I gotta at least put him in A tier, you know? As I definitely think he's, you know, worth that. Okay, next up, we'll go with Beldum. And this is going to be interesting, right? Because Beldum, I'm going to put in C tier. Now, Beldum's move pool is incredibly dire. And it's typically like a low end point mon in Little Cup because of its dire move pool. But I think for the low tiered mons, like those 2-3 point mons, I think Beldum is one of the best ones at that price point, just because of the fact that it really has, like, you know, great defensive typing, and despite not having many moves, it still has Iron Heads and Headbutt. It even gets like Iron Defense and, you know, weird things like that. So in specific niche matchups, it can be pretty solid as a defensive pivot, things like that, you know, and especially considering that what would kind of stuff this thing the most in steals aren't very prevalent in the format. Waters are kind of annoying, but Zen Headbutts will still chunk them hard, and especially in such an offensive metagame like Little Cup where things, lack reliable recovery or don't want to take the turn to recover and things like that. Really, if you're drafting a low endpoint Mon, I think that Beldum is one of the better ones to draft personally. So I'm going to go ahead and put Beldum in C tier. It doesn't do much, but for the price it's pretty solid. And now we can go on to, once again, my second favorite Pokemon ever in Metagross. I'm going to put it in B tier. It's nothing overwhelming, right? Metagross isn't going to come and just, be your top end threat and be the best, Mon on your team. But I think Metagross is amazing with an AV. It's an incredibly reliable rocker. It's ridiculously strong as well. It gets great coverage for the things that we want to switch in on it, like other bulky steals and waters and like Thunder Punch, Earthquake, and Body Press, which is great. I think like Iron Defense Body Press sets are really cool as well. I've even seen Meteor Beam Metagross pop off before. It can sweep with an agility, gets priority and Bullet Punch. So while it's not like incredibly flashy, it's incredibly sturdy, and it does what it needs to do really, really well in my opinion. So I love Metagross. It's like one of my go-to bulky steel types to draft personally. So I'm gonna go ahead and put it in B tier. Next up we have, it looks like Dino, and I'm gonna go ahead and put Dino in D tier. And while it's definitely a higher point value than something like Beldum, and you could say it's comparable to Bagon in the sense that it's really frail, it doesn't have that same game ending like ability that Bagon has. So while it might be stronger with Hustle, Hustle's also not the most reliable thing in the world, honestly. So Dino has the ability to run through teams with like a Scarf and things like that, but that's obviously outsped by a lot of other common Scarfers. What's Dino's speed tier? John's gonna be really upset that I have this thing this slow. Yeah, this thing hits 14 speed with a Jolly nature, so you have to be Jolly, I believe, to outspeed the 19 speed, top tier Mons, which is really, really tough. And obviously most other Scarfers are going to outpace you. You're really, really frail. And yeah, Hustle's just too unreliable. It doesn't get Dragon Dance as setup, even though Hydreigon does. It doesn't get Nasty Plot. And it just doesn't have the same coverage. So personally, I'm not a big fan of Dino. It's another one I have drafted before, but it's just not reliable enough for me to say, like, this is a top tier Pokemon. You know what I mean? At least personally, that's how I feel. Okay. Next up, we have its evolution, which is going to be Hydreigon, and this is a different story. This is a great Pokemon. You want to talk about another Pokemon that's incredibly versatile? A lot of people think of Hydra and they think of like Scarf or Spec sets, but I think Stallbreaker Hydra is amazing with like Taunt and like Life Orb and Roost. I think it's U-turn for momentum, obviously. It can defog. I've seen it spread Thunder Waves. I've seen it be really, really Spadef bulky to check X, threat. It can be physical, Dragon Dance, it can be special, it can be mixed. This Pokemon is amazing, and that Dragon Dark typing, while it is stuffed by fairies, is so ridiculously good against everything else. And the fact that you get U-turn can kind of facilitate your own momentum and get into something that deals with those fairies. You have a good steal, you have a good poison, something like that. It just awards you so much offensive momentum and initiative if you're smart with Hydra. It's a great Scarfer, like we said already. 98 is a pretty... It's 98, right? It's not 97. Let's see. I always get that mixed up. It is 98. Cool. Go. Is a pretty solid speed tier. It sucks not being faster than base 100, but again, a Scarf can always make up for that. And, you got speed at least those common base 95 Mons and below, which is really, really nice. And, yeah, great coverage overall. Can Nasty Block, can Dragon Dance, can Roost, all that good stuff. Very, very versatile Pokemon. I love me some Hydreigon. Okay, next up we have Dragopalt, but I'm going to do Dreepy next. I'm actually going to put Dreepy in C tier as well. It's another Pokemon like Beldum where it's actually pretty low point value, just because of the fact that its move pool is abysmal. It's terrible. This thing gets like Draco Meteor and Thunder Wave. It gets like no special Ghost Step, does not get Shadow Ball for some reason. It can Baton Pass as well. But for the price point it's at, it's pretty solid. It's a pretty good check to Sun teams. You can run Colbur and always, at least eat a hit from Bulbasaur and either Thunder Wave or Draco it, which is nice. I like it with an eject pack a lot. I've seen it just, be a nuisance with Thunder Wave and Life Orb Dracos and things like that. Because again, fairies and steals are not very prevalent in the format. So a lot of times the Dreepy will have like a weird matchup where it can come in and just kind of click Life Orb Draco and do a lot of damage to something on the switch in, which is awesome. And it has a phenomenal speed tier for a Pokemon at its price point. If you just really can't find anything solid enough for speed control or like at that high-end speed tier for your team, it hits, let's see, at max speed at level 5, it hits 18 speed at Tim, which is amazing. Again, like I said, 17 is like one of the more prevalent offensive speed tiers, so being able to Thunder Wave things at that speed tier and kind of go from there is amazing. Now, we can obviously talk about Big Dragopalt. I don't think anybody expected me to put this anywhere else. I hope you don't put it anywhere else, because as much as I love to say these things are objective, you would be objectively wrong if you put Dragopalt anywhere other than S tier. This is the best Pokemon in the Draft League format. Its speed tier is ridiculous. Honestly, 142, I believe. Yeah, 142, allowing it to outpace 95% of the metagame with ease. Probably 90% of it with a modest or adamant nature. It can be physical or special. I think DD sets would be so much better if it had more reliable Ghost Stab, but still, it can get by with it, or mixed sets are amazing. It can be Life Orb, it can be Boots, and just pivot around the entire game with U-Turn. Specs is obviously terrifying, being that Ghost is the best offensive typing this generation, and incredibly hard to punish. And a lot of bulky normals just don't switch in on Specs Draco Meteor very well. So you really have to pivot around this thing carefully. And again, if you're expecting it to be some weird spec set and it's like Willow Hex or DD or something like that, you're really gonna have a tough time. So this Pokemon is incredibly versatile. It does so many things so well, and it just meshes good teams around it, just like together so perfectly. It's a Pokemon I really want to draft. I haven't really gotten the chance to use it too much, and I really want to use it one more time before Gen 8 ends, and hopefully we'll get to soon. But it's just an amazing Pokemon for sure. Okay. Next up, we have Dratini. This is going to be our first Little Cup Pokemon. It's going to be a B tier, actually. I am using Dratini in this current LC Evo season that we're talking about, and I love this thing. I think it has very passable bulk with a Eviolite. And, you know, with a DD, it can be very, very scary, especially, again, like I said, with Seals being not very prevalent. It doesn't have great coverage for them physically, but it can get by them with, like, mixed flamethrowers, as well as, you know, if it's, like, a Steel Rock type, it gets Waterfall, or Surf or something like that. It gets Extreme Speed for priority, and if you know Little Cup, you know that Extreme Speed, or priority in general, is a very, very valuable thing to have. So I think that's a really, really clutch aspect of Dratini. And the fact that it can go special so easily. I love mixed 4 attacks or just special 4 attacks Dratini so much in Little Cup. I think it's amazing with an Eviolite, with a Life Orb, something like that. It can be incredibly tough to deal with because it has that Gen 1 coverage with like Thunderbolt, Ice Beam, Flamethrower, Surf, Draco Meteor, Dragon Pulse, Extreme Speed, all that fun stuff, as well as the option to potentially DD up. I think this Pokemon's really slept on in Little Cup, and I think more people should explore it for sure. And speaking of it, another Pokemon that's pretty slept on, I think, is Dragonite. Maybe it's just in the Wi-Fi sphere. I don't see Dragonite drafted all too often. This thing's amazing. I know people think of Multiscale and Dragon Dance, which is especially amazing this generation with Boots being a thing, being that you don't have to immediately or, you know, guarantee keep away those rocks if you are Boots. It's the fact that this thing's defensive utility is insane. It can heal ball away things, it can toxic things. It has that Gen 1 coverage just like Dratini, if not better. Dual Wing Beat and Physical Flying Stab this gem, which is amazing. It can Earthquake and Fire Punch and I think Breakthrough. Bulky Steals and, you know, things like that. It's a really, really tough Pokemon to deal with. And then you also you run the risk of, you know, if you're like, it's Boots, it's whatever, I'm just gonna, you know, attack it. If this thing's, what do you call it, weakness policy, it can just run through a team that accidentally hits it with, like, you know, a weak super effective move through that multi-scale. So I think, like, the offensive and defensive utility that multi-scale gives this Pokemon is pretty darn insane. Again, Extreme Speed priority Band D-Knight is also a very viable option, and Special D-Knight's great too. I've seen, like, Special D-Knight on, like, rain builds and things like that, which can be pretty terrifying for people to deal with, like, hurricanes and thunders and things like that. So, I love D-Knight. I am partial to Ments, but I also really like Dragonite. I want to try it again soon, because I haven't really gotten the opportunity to. Okay, next up we have Gibble. I'm also going to put Gibble in B tier. This is a Pokemon that I know my buddy Jason loves. I know Jason loves Gibble, and for good reason. It's a very reliable rocker. Dragon Ground is a nuts typing in Little Cup. It can Hone Claws and then Scale Shot up. It doesn't get Swords Dance, but it can Hone Claws and Scale Shot up for some speed, which is really nice, and sweep through some teams. And it has the option to potentially go special as well with like Draco and Earth Power and things like that. It's a mid-tier Pokemon. It's like a, you know, high-end tier 3, I guess, if you would like to equate it to points. But again, it's an amazing Pokemon overall. I really do like Gibble, especially for its price point. It does so many things so well, and it's very, very terrifying to deal with for sure. But yeah, next up we have Garchomp, and this is going to be the other S tier. I love Garchomp. I've drafted it a million times already. Like I said, Dragon Ground, just as good in Standard as it is in Little Cup, obviously, which is really cool. This thing just blows through teams with Earthquake plus Dragon Stab. It got Scale Shot this gen to give it a pseudo Dragon Dance because you can Sword Dance up, and then Scale Shot and boost passive teams. You can also go really bulky with like Helmet Chomp with Rough Skin. It's a great rocker. It spreads Toxics very reliably. It can Dragon Tail things around in a more defensive way. You can be special as well. Again, it's a very good mixture special mon. Again, it's a Pokemon that I think really thrives a lot like Salamance, a lot like Dragonite, in the hands of someone who's a creative builder. And really all of these pseudos, besides maybe Metagross and Goodra, I think all of these Pokemon really shine when people aren't afraid to do things differently with them than what they typically are known for doing, at least in my opinion. So I really like Garchomp. I think it's definitely up there, S tier, second best Pseudo-Legendary, just behind Dragopalt, personally, for me. Okay, next up. This is going to be very tough for a lot of people, but I'm going to put Goomy in D tier. I've actually never seen Goomy drafted in Little Cup. It just doesn't have... Well, I mean, maybe I have seen it. I've seen it drafted a few times, but I've never seen it do anything substantial. Its bulk just doesn't hold up. It's very slow. It has good coverage, but again, there's other Pokemon that can do what Goomy does. I don't really know how to describe it other than that. It's just very, very mediocre at everything it does. So I'm going to go ahead and put it down there. And Goodra, I'm going to say it. I know a lot of people really don't agree with this. I really don't like Goodra in Draft League, personally. It is not my favorite Pokemon, to say the least. When I talk about all these pseudos, I talk about versatility, really outside of Metagross, but I think Metagross is so reliably good at what it does. And it does more than Goodra. Really, Goodra is okay, and like maybe a Specs and Scarf Roll every once in a while, but it's going to be AV 80% of weeks. You know, maybe like some other weird like Rest, Rain Dance shenanigans other weeks and things like that. But I feel like this Pokemon is just so underwhelming. I have never built, and again, the Spadef is crazy. It's got amazing coverage. It's not a bad Pokemon. I want to preface this that none of these Pokemon are bad, especially the fully evolved Pokemon. None of them are bad. I don't know. I've never gone into a matchup and been like, oh no, a Goodra. There's been matches where it's been annoying, and I've had to kind of prep accordingly for it, but that's Draft League in general, in my opinion. I've never been too worried about a Goodra. And Goodra never has the ability to run away with a game, like every single one of these other Pokemon do. Goodra can't run away with a game. Even Metagross, which, like we said, is typically that AVmon, that bulky rocker, it can run away with agilities. It can run away with and just break through teams with like a choice band and things like that. Where Specs Goodra can kind of do that. Not really, though. I don't know. I think the Spadef walling capabilities of it is very solid. I think as an AVmon, it's really solid. But really, it's very unimpressive to me personally. Maybe I have not used Goodra correctly. Maybe I have not played people who have used Goodra correctly. Maybe I'll give it a shot in a future draft league. But as of right now, I'm personally not a big fan. Okay, we got two more. We're going to go, Jangmo-o is going to be in C tier. It's a lot like something like Bagon, in my opinion, where like if it gets the opportunity to set up, it can be really, really terrifying. It's actually not a fighting type too, fun fact. But this thing gets pretty solid coverage. Earthquake and Brick Break are really solid options for like a low tier dragon. A lot of them do not get that kind of coverage, which is really solid. I believe it also gets Iron Head for fairies. And being with an Eviolite, it can be decently bulky. But again, it hits 15 speed, which is pretty mediocre and lackluster, meaning that a lot of Scarfers are going to outspeed you at +1 anyways. And it's not the bulkiest thing in the world. It has decent defense. Its HP and Spadef isn't the best though. So it's okay at what it does. And if you want like a fun dragon to have like as a potential scary setup win con in the back, it's okay in Little Cup. It's just definitely nothing great though, personally, at least in my opinion. Next up though, we have Kommo-o. I'm gonna go ahead and put Kommo-o in B tier. I really like Kommo-o personally. I know a lot of people are not a big fan of it, but if you want to talk about setup versatility, this Pokemon can DD, Swords Dance, Bulk Up, Iron Defense, Clanger's Soul, Autotomize. I might even be missing another one, which is really crazy. It's incredibly bulky. Its speed tier is pretty lackluster, but it has insane offensive coverage. Defensive Kommo-o is even better this generation with Body Press and Iron Defense, which is really amazing. It's a very reliable rocker. It's kind of stuffed by fairies, but most of these mons are. The only tough thing is it doesn't have momentum, like something like Hydreigon, and the other ones can kind of push through fairies a little bit easier with their secondary stabs. Whereas Kommo-o can't really, unfortunately, but it's not that big of a deal in my opinion. I really do think Kommo-o is an absolutely amazing Pokemon. Personally, I would even potentially like think about putting it in A tier myself, but I think objectively B is a little bit smarter for it. And it has a lot of really cool setup options and, you know, potential ways to just end games if you play it properly. I do think that it's funny though, and I really wanted to mention it, is early gen. I myself was kind of a part of this train for the first like month or two of Gen 8. Is Clanger's Soul became a move. It was a move that was added in Gen 8 to kind of like make up for Kommo-o's Z move that was gone. And what it does is for 33% of your health, you get a Omni boost, basically. And a lot of people thought that was going to be absolutely broken, but when you think about like the opportunity cost, or like, I don't know if that's even the right term, like the cost, I'll just say the cost. Let's try not to be smarter than we really are, because it's not very smart. The cost for, you know, getting that Omni Boost is 33% of your health, and you're doing that in the face during a turn where you can be attacked and, you know, either just O-code by something in front of you or chip down very, very low. And the fact that you're only getting +1s and everything, really, I think, kind of balances it very well. But I remember early Sword and Shield, everybody was terrified of that, and everybody used to ban Clanger Soul kommo-o, at least the leagues I was a part of early in the gen, which I think is pretty darn funny, personally. Okay, next up is going to be Larvitar. I'm going to put Larvitar in B tier because, this is weird, because this is a Pokemon I really want to try. If you don't know, Larvitar actually gets Guts as an ability. And Guts Larvitar, I just typed in Guts in the calc. Guts Larvitar, against like fatter builds, or like if you're positioned in on the right thing, can be really terrifying. Again, it has that 14 speed tier, which is pretty bad, but it's really darn bulky compared to a lot of these other mods. And, you know, if you get that Flame Orb off, and you're throwing off potentially like Visage and Rock Slide, and then like Stab Edgequake, and Superpower, and, you know, different options like that, you can be really scary. It gets rocks. It can also be a DD Sweeper with an Eviolite. So I think this Pokemon actually has a lot of potential in Little Cup in the right player's hands. I have never tried it myself, though, so I'm not going to say 100% I am right, but it's something I really do want to try because I think it has that viability if used correctly. So yeah, I really want to try Larvitar in Little Cup. I think it would be a lot of fun. And then lastly, big T-Tar. I gotta put T-Tar in A tier. This is an amazing Pokemon, whether it be regular or Mega T-Tar. They're great Pokemon. I think a lot of people sometimes see T-Tar as like, you know, expensive sand setter, but personally, I wouldn't draft T-Tar Drill, just because I feel like in Gen 8 at least, it's very expensive. I'd rather get Gigalith Drill and then something else at the top end, to kind of better facilitate my Excadrill, like a Latios, like a, you know, Dragopalt for some reason, or, you know, like if I get that first. But I think T-Tar, like, on its own, on, like, fatter balance builds, or, like, just, like, T-Tar really fits on most teams, in all honesty, and sets up rocks very reliably, is incredibly strong with band variants. It can go special or mixed with its great coverage. It can go DD, it can go Rock Polish, it can be Assault Vest and just not die to special hits no matter what. This Pokemon's amazing, though. I really like T-Tar, and I think, again, in a creative builder's hands, it can be amazing, despite its very, very lackluster speed tier. It's strong, and it's fat as hell, so I don't think you can go wrong with T-Tar, but yeah, that's gonna be our list. Let me know what you guys think. Obviously, we left these guys alone. I guess I can go through them really quick. Not really that viable. Maybe like DD Eviolite sets can do work. This sucks. This sucks. This sucks. Eviolite, Matang, I've seen drafted a fair few amount of times. It's probably the best one in this point pool, but yeah, not great. This one sucks. Maybe some, you know, utility with Eviolite and things like that. This sucks, this sucks. That's it. I don't think that the mid-stage pseudos are really ever worth drafting, personally. I know some people don't think that, but I personally don't. But I think this is fun to at least rank the final stages and the first stages in Little Cup and things like that. As you can see, they're obviously not very good in Little Cup, just due to the fact that a lot of pseudos first stages are intentionally made very weak, so that they can have that glow up at the top end. But mons like Dratini, Gibble, and Larvitar do have solid niches in the tier. Whereas a lot of these top end, you know, the whole top two rows are just, you know, pseudo final stages, which are amazing Pokemon, obviously. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed, be sure to drop a like. If you're new here, be sure to drop a sub, and I will see you guys in the next one. Later.